Sorry. Right, we're back. We are back now on to, believe it or not, we are now on to our last session of today. Doesn't the day go quickly? These days are going so fast, aren't they? Before we know it, we started this morning with our first session, and before we know it, we're already here. Lots of ideas, lots of inspiration, lots of great sessions, conversations, discussion, different points of view, perspectives. And the great thing is as well, you can watch all of this on demand all over again, everything you missed, all the sessions you didn't choose because you were doing something else, you were popping in and out, had your obviously busy lives working and doing everything that everybody does in their lives. You can watch it all over again when it's all available very shortly. You'll have the whole week, every single day, every single word spoken, and every single perspective as well. Right, let's move on. So, as I mentioned earlier on, the Shoemaker Syndrome. So shoemakers are often guilty, well, not guilty, but often they're kind of, they maybe focus too much, maybe not too much, but they're focusing a lot on making shoes for customers, right? Really making these shoes for the people that have to wear these shoes, but neglect perhaps the shoes on their own feet and around the family. This is what this session is all about. There's just a little bit of a flavor for you what's going to unfold right now, but the person who's going to tell you more about this is actually from the founder of SuperCharge yourself, Sonal Bahl. Sonal, are you there? Hello?
I'm here. I unmuted myself. I did the 2020 thing. I didn't know I was on mute. I'm sorry.
It's good. No, it's okay. I just caught you like you just froze like that. We froze, right?
Do things work?
Hopefully, yeah, it's working perfectly now. Looking great. Great view. I wonder where you are. I'm just going to guess. No, don't tell me. Don't tell me.
Okay.
You look like you're in an attic. Are you in an attic? Is that right?
Yes.
You are.
Yes.
You're in an attic, and it looks like I have no idea where you are actually. Tell us, where are you?
Attic / game room / gym / laundry room.
You do all that in that room? Wow.
Yeah. In Brussels, Belgium.
It's either, okay. You do everything in the same room. Fantastic. Whereabouts is that room, like location in the world?
In Brussels, Belgium.
Brussels, Belgium. Fantastic. Beautiful Brussels, beautiful Belgium. And now we're going to hear a beautiful session from you all about this. We're all intrigued. Shoemaker Syndrome, shoemakers and HR. What on earth is the connection? We're going to hear that right now. So remember, again, listeners, you have something you'd like to ask Sonal at the end, or maybe you want to challenge what you hear. You don't agree with what you hear, that's okay as well. Or you just want to share your love and show us all that you're engaged with what you're hearing. Towards the end, I'll pop back in, and any questions, we'll have a short exchange, okay?
Perfect. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. My name is Sonal Bahl. I am a career strategist and founder of SuperCharge, which is the career coaching business that I run, that I help my clients with when it comes to their career transitions through coaching, digital courses, and content. I've got lots of content on YouTube. I have a podcast. And in my previous life, I have been in HR for the better part of 2 decades in India, in South America, in Europe, in large, medium, small companies. At the time, GE, Fortune 5, PwC, family-owned companies, and then also startups. So not going to say I know everything, because nobody does, and it's arrogant as hell to say that. But I've seen my share of the good and the bad. And Peter, you said, I want this to be provocative. If this is you're expecting a politically correct session, or like, this is a problem, let's fix it. Let's fix HR. This is not about that. This is about the Shoemaker Syndrome. Now, what is the Shoemaker Syndrome? You heard a little bit, Peter was explaining it earlier. There is a story, the elves and the shoemaker. Maybe you read it as a kid, right? So this shoemaker is so busy preparing shoes, beautiful shoes for his customer, to feed his family. But in the meantime, so the expression is literally, the shoemaker's children often go barefoot. That is the expression. And the idea was, in terms of not only yourself, but the people around you, right? You take yourself or you take your loved ones for granted or your immediate team. Let's translate the family into the team. Now, we don't realize how it creeps up on us, but it happens. And this session today is not about put your oxygen mask first before you put on the oxygen mask of the others. While that is important, because if you don't do that, you will perish. So at the same time, I know you know that. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what it is, which I just did. Why does it exist? And number three, what can we do to address it? I don't want to say fix it because it's something that a lot of us have. So I just explain what it is. Now, this is something that happens for a lot of functions that are in a space of giving, in a space of care, in a space of taking care of others. You saw health workers during the pandemic go through awful burnouts. A lot of them ended up quitting because they couldn't handle it, right? Now, when it comes to corporate, right, in terms of what it is, the consequences are so dire, they're so grave. I'm going to be talking about them in a little while, but I hope you walk away with the fact that this is not an HR problem. This is a massive bottom line business problem. And people tend to listen when money is involved. Till then, we're kind of like, put it back in the back burner. But this isn't one of those. This isn't one of those. So I'd love questions. I'd love comments on this. I'd love for people to disagree. So these are certain views I have. Before I talk about why does it occur, I want to just briefly talk about the three monkeys. You've seen those three wise monkeys with the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, right? So if I were to translate, I don't know why I'm thinking about monkeys right now, but this is just, I'm monkeying around. Okay, bear with me. So when it comes to all these three monkeys translated in the corporate world, particularly in HR, this is what is an observation from my side. The first one is HR attrition. What is the HR attrition looking like in your organization? I'll be sharing some numbers with you, but how much is that tracked and the reasons and the exit interviews or the stay interviews, whatever you call it, right? People don't want to hear about it. We hear about other attritions, but when it comes to HR, hear no evil. I don't want to hear about it. The second, the stress, the massive amounts of stress and burnout in HR. I can't talk about it. So it's the say no evil. A third one is HR learning. I'm not talking about learning and development as a function, but I'm talking about learning. And the previous panel was talking about that. So I'm glad somebody mentioned lifelong learning. With that, people say, I don't see, right? So see no evil. I don't see the ROI. I don't see the return on investment, or I don't see the need for it. So these are the three that are already there in the background. They've been there for ever since HR has been around. And we're in 2022. It's shocking how much has changed and yet how little has changed. All right, let's talk about why the Shoemaker Syndrome exists. I have thoughts. You probably have thoughts as well. So feel free to share. Now, the first reason I think it exists is because of something called the curse of knowledge, or academics call it the curse of expertise. So what that specifically means is it's very difficult to give advice to someone who is a professional in their sphere, in their specialism. And the reason is because they think they already know what needs to be done. And a very classic example of this is why you see doctors making the worst patients. Personally, I remember being in school and my beloved grandpa who brought me up, I was brought up by my grandparents. I've not really shared this, but I want to talk about this because I think this might resonate with someone. Very accomplished doctor, but when it came to himself, he put himself last. And when the cancer diagnosis came out, it was too late. And people were shocked and judgmental. And why? Well, the reason is doctors make the worst patients. And there's also interesting articles on shrinks, so psychiatrists, what is their mental health looking like? Because they're taking care of others. So this is the first reason, which is the curse of knowledge or the curse of expertise. The second reason, brace yourself, because the second one is a big one. Okay, I'm going to be spending some time here. So I'm going to take a sip of water before I do that. The second reason is inundation. Inundation, flood of what? Work. I know every single person is who's watching and listening right now will 100% agree and nod their head right now. Now, what is happening? The volume of work is going up. At the same time, the headcount in HR is either at the same level as pre-pandemic times, or in worst case scenarios, the headcount has actually gone down because of layoffs. We all know which victims tend to go first, and they tend to be particularly in the so-called, non-revenue generating roles, HR, etc. Even though I would argue that it's actually revenue generating, but all right, different talk for a different day. So with the volume of work going up, headcount staying where it is or below, and thirdly, things getting added to the plate. Regulatory, come here. Compliance, bring it on. Data analytics, ooh, come. I got a lot of space in there. Customers, CSR, then chief remote officer, you name it, just miscellaneous stuff, bring it to HR, right? At the same time, this is one, the manpower is the same, right? So that is a big problem. And then when you add what has happened in the last 2 years, without realizing and without being qualified, a lot of us in HR have become therapists for people because they didn't have any, those people didn't have anybody anywhere else to turn to. And they've also become leaders, cheerleaders, right? Which is a very exhausting thing to do. So with all of this, and by the way, not to forget nurses, because a lot of people were also taking care of vaccines, etc., in different parts of the world. I want to share a quick story with you, and I'm gonna throw because I want there to be some impact. I'm gonna share a quick story with you, and I'm gonna throw some figures. The quick story is I have this client who works with one of the largest tech companies in the world, one of the big global tech companies. So he was telling me, ever since the pandemic, the attrition in the overall organization has doubled. It's doubled. So it's upwards of 20%, which means, yeah, my goodness, 100 people, the end of the year, they're going to be 80. So can you guess which function has the highest amount of attrition? It's HR. I can't see you right now, so probably that's what you guessed. It's it's over 30%. It's over 30%. That's insane. And when you see everything they have to do, right? And this is a survey that I checked, which was published in Forbes in April 2022. It was written actually by a Forbes contributor called Jack Kelly, who's a friend of mine. And I can link the survey in the comments later if anyone is interested. Unfortunately, a lot of the surveys, as we know, are usually US, UK. Oh, I know. Would be nice to have some inclusivity and bring other regions, other geographies. But you know what? It's something that we can actually work with. That survey, the most shocking thing that they shared is, so they interviewed 520 HR professionals in the United States, in the United Kingdom. Okay, what did they find? 98% of HR professionals are burnt out. 98%. So if you're watching and you're not burnt out, you might be in a minority, or you work with a dreamy employer. I'm really happy for you, but you're not part of that norm, unfortunately, right? What else? What are the other fun facts? 88% dread the idea of going to work. Dread. Do you know that TSF, that Sunday feeling? I call it TSF. We know that Sunday feeling. It starts in your head. I've got to go to work tomorrow. By the afternoon, it comes to your heart. I have to go to work tomorrow. You start maybe quickly checking your emails. And by the evening, it is in the pit of your stomach. And you're dreading Monday morning. If you know, you know. Okay, nobody likes that feeling. You're doing it because you have to do it and you can't wait for Friday. Living for the weekend. That's not a way to live. That's not a way to live. We spend so much time at work. But unfortunately, 88% say they dread work. What else? 83%, this is interesting, say office politics is disrupting the workplace. How many egomaniac leaders do we have? How many people make life difficult for us? And if this isn't enough, only 29% say that their work is actually valued. in the organization. 29%. That's not much. And finally, what I want to say is 73% say they don't have the tools or the resources necessary to be able to do their job well. So, is it surprising with everything that 98% are getting burnt out? No. Okay. So, the third reason why the Shoemaker syndrome exists is the optics trap. Kind of self explanatory, right? Optics trap. How is it going to look? If there's a restructuring, we should axe HR positions first. If there is a recognition, HR can, why will we give an award to HR? No, it doesn't look good, right? Or, HR should be at the office. Somebody should be at the office. Can you call Marina? Someone should be there. Let it be HR, right? So we're stuck in this optics trap. So what can we do about it? Let's address these one by one. The first one I said was the curse of expertise, which is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So what can we do? It's a complicated topic, not something you can talk about in 15, 20 minutes. But to start with, it would be helpful to have an external diagnosis. We live in a world where source matters, right? It's not just the message, but the messenger. So if the message is coming from an organization that specializes in collecting this data and it's a neutral party from outside, it'll be good to get this external diagnosis from outside to understand where are we today? Where is the as is before we start complaining and we want to change things? Anonymous pulse surveys where they don't even ask you which department you are in. None of that, because people are like, oh, which department? 15 people. I know who wrote that. Let's have a conversation. No. Anonymous pulse surveys to understand where are people, where, in terms of trust of HR, and where is HR today. If it's fairly medium to large and there is a sizable HR population, to get a pulse of that population. And thirdly, associations, network. This event, this HR week is so immensely helpful. If this were in person, it would be even more amazing, because there's nothing like talking to people in person and they're like, somebody you meet and they're complaining about a particular HRIS and you're like, oh, but we tried this particular thing and they're giving a discount these days. And a lot of the things we don't realize we have blind spots on, right? So there's so much we can do and share with each other and realize the stuff that we're going through. We think we're so special. We think we're all snowflakes. We think it's only happening in my company. It's not. A lot of it is universal. So conferences like the HR week, whether it's in person, virtual is the next best thing. But this is amazing. So things like this help a lot with the first problem, which is the curse of expertise. The second one is inundation, the flooding of work. What can we do about it? We need data. I have data from 2019. Okay, now I don't have recent data, but according to what I have, how many people who are at the HR seniority level, right? Let's say CHRO, HRVP, SVP, whatever. What percentage have a seat at the table? Last time I checked, 50%. 50% don't have a seat at the table. They don't have seat at the table. Decisions are not being made inclusively. They're being told later, like end of the food chain. Not enough. Not enough. First, we need to start and recognize the contribution that HR is making, because a lot of these things we talked about, if HR is not healthy, not doing their job well, it will disrupt sales. It will disrupt customer service. Why? Recruiting, onboarding, talent, development, attrition, retention, everything. Variable incentives, a lot of this stuff. People don't realize how much HR is doing. The second thing is tech is our friend. A lot of companies have already invested, but many have still not invested in simple ESS and MSS, employee self-service, management self-service, particularly tasks that don't require a lot of brain power should be done directly by them, right? I don't know how much is actually happening in reality. You can say we're in 2022, but that doesn't mean that it's working equally everywhere. The third thing is the skills of the future, right? We said, I don't see the ROIs, I don't want to invest in the learning. We know a lot of skills of the future. We know how much they're going to benefit humanity today. We need to invest in those skills. So people in HR should know a lot more when it comes to things like data, understanding data analytics, so that It's not something that is catching us on the back foot. So on the tech side of things, right? So tech is not a separate function. Everything has technology in it. So these are some ideas to sort of help with the workload and also focus on what HR is actually strong at. The third thing is the optics, the trap of the optics. We've got to stop caring, or we've got to start caring less about what people think of us. No, it sounds a bit. The thing is, when it comes to behavioral change starts at the top always, and then it percolates down. A few years ago, there was this article by, talking about the leader who was heading PepsiCo at in Australia, New Zealand location. And I think the article was called something like "Leaders Leaving Loudly." Like, he would be like 3 p.m. On a Thursday or a Friday. All right, guys, I'm out. My kid has a recital, or I have to take this one to baseball or cricket. Hey, have a good weekend. Have a good evening. I'll see you tomorrow. Rather than hide and go quietly versus leave loudly. We can't do that. A lot of us are not empowered to do that. It's funny we're having this today because I got a call this morning from the nurse. Anyone who's a parent who's watching and your phone rings and it says school nurse, you know what that means, right? You have a sinking feeling. Is everything okay with my child? And he was not okay today. I went and picked him up. A few years ago, if I had got this call, and if I were, when I was at one of, the workplaces I used to be at, I used to get this sinking feeling that I have to talk to my boss about it. He or she. I hope it's okay with them, right? That's the sign of not a great culture. But if it starts at the top where it's like, hey, Sonal, no problem. I hope he feels better soon. Don't worry about it. That's so different. It starts with that leadership. All right. And finally, the other thing I wanted to say is when it comes to the optics trap, there's nothing like data. Data is our best friend. There's nothing like data to destroy some illusions out there, because people respect that a lot more when it's coming with numbers as opposed to anecdotes. So I'm looking at the time. So essentially, right, to sum up, does the Shoemaker Syndrome exist? Yeah, it does. It does. Whether you see it, whether you believe it or not, it does in almost every company. We can do a few things to overcome it. So the last thing I'm going to say is you've been here today, you've been there the last 4 days, you've probably got like a notebook of like furiously written notes. Please put a slot in your calendar. Be like, I'm going to go through my notes and I can't attack everything, but these are the few things I'm going to be working on. This is how things happen. This is how things get done. And same with this conversation today. Let's now go with the intention of making beautiful shoes that are comfortable for ourselves and for everyone else so we can walk the path successfully together. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. What a lovely way to finish. Lovely way to finish. But before you do, just a couple of questions we're going to go through. We don't have too much time at all, but we'll go through these last ones before we wrap up. So what is the formula for putting yourself before others? You can't answer that in a short way, but you're going to try, I'm sure.
I think that we don't need to overthink this. It comes down to basic boundaries that everyone needs to have. I don't like the word should, but if you have something comes to you and you need to give it tomorrow, or we know that boss that tells you on a Friday and you need to give it on a Monday, you burn yourself out doing it over the weekend. And guess what? Monday, nobody even cared because they went to golf. So it's like important, urgent, that is one of the oldest things, which is important, which is urgent, that 4x4. But those boundaries actually help you, but they also help the company. They help the company because you do your job better.
There are a few people asking for the link for the survey. Maybe the best. Actually, have you got it there?
I'm going to open it right now.
Great. You can pop it in.
Yes.
into the chat, and hopefully that's hopefully going to be, yeah, okay.
Yes.
As you're doing that, another question, last question. I'm just wondering right now, what do you think when we get to the point when we don't need to prove how much HR is important? Is it 2030, 2050, or is it going to be at sometime sooner? What do you think?
I have no idea. And I don't like predicting things. I don't believe in all of that. But I do know because I can't control, you, me, the world, we can't control that. What we can control is how we show up for every single day. Atomic Habits, James Clear, you do what you can do and you show up every day and be the best that you can every day. And I think those things take care of themselves. But I'm a big stoic, Roman stoicism. So like focus on what I have in my realm that I can control.
Listen, so now that's where we're gonna sort of leave it there for now. But again, everybody that's been listening, you're more than welcome to connect over LinkedIn and link up with Sonal. And again, those conversations, we'll see where those conversations unfold. But in the meantime, listen, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. We say goodbye to Brussels and Belgium and to that beautiful attic, which actually is a place that you do absolutely everything in, which is superb. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Bye-bye.